Selected 1. The moment of exposure has begun. Someone's desperation to undo the past has triggered the unraveling of a century-long secret. Late at night, shaking with fear, they search the web for how to reverse spiritual work. And in that single digital act, everything fell apart. The same technology they once used to watch you, to track, monitor, and harvest your divine energy, has now become the very mechanism of their downfall. Heaven works through irony, and this one was divine. Elon Musk's message to his future wife echoes across timelines. Technology reveals truth faster than lies can hide it. And that's exactly what's happening now. Their desperate search for control became their confession. Every encrypted file, every hidden chat, every digital trail is being illuminated by forces far beyond human reach. Federal investigators are now tracing the footprints of those who tried to hijack destiny itself. What they called protection was surveillance. What they called data collection was spiritual theft. But the code is reversing. The cosmic system is restoring what was stolen: your energy, your voice, your divine inheritance. This isn't fiction. This is justice unfolding in real time. And you, the chosen one, are the proof that no system, no secret, and no shadow can overpower the light written into your DNA. The universe itself transformed its own gadgets into weapons against the adversary, who believed that private browsing and encrypted conversations would cover up their misdeeds. Every frantic search, every desperate click, and every digital trace they made while attempting to avoid the repercussions of what they had done to you all turned into proof. Investigators never anticipated the digital floodgate that was unleashed by just one online search. Synchronized search strategies across many devices. Spiritual material was monitored by social media algorithms. The systematic targeting of people with enhanced spiritual powers is shown via digital communications. They used their own technology as a confessional, and there were notes being taken by the Most High. Investigators are now able to track down the information produced by each frantic search for spiritual cleansers online. Their terror took the shape of digital manifestation. Looks for ways to reverse karma, dissolve spiritual contracts, and halt spiritual assaults. Every inquiry served as an additional link in an unbreakable chain of evidence that led straight to you. Investigators were led by the heavenly hand to a revelation that left them feeling completely cold. A vast, well-organized network created especially to find, separate, and spiritually drained light workers, healers, and empaths like you. You were a great target for their soul harvesting operation because of your distinctive energy signature. Here's something they didn't anticipate, however. All their crimes would ultimately be exposed by the same computerized technologies they employ to track your spiritual enlightenment. It's both lovely and horrifying to see the universe's sense of comedy. They developed a whole handling system that is intended to put harmful people in your way. Those who have had specialized training in interfering spiritually in your life. These handlers weren't just unsavory individuals who happened to be in your way. They were recruited. They received training. They were compensated to cut off your electricity supply. Every individual who sapped your energy and left you feeling spiritually spent, every poisonous connection that appeared to appear out of nowhere, all of them were a part of a planned system that kept you functioning at a lower frequency. The network operates across many nations, shielded from institutional and political forces that stand to gain from the suppression of selected souls. You're only starting to realize how useful you were because of your enhanced spiritual powers. They were aware that you would serve as a spark for a widespread spiritual awakening if you ever fully realized your own potential. To share the love of the angels, write amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. And more than anything else on this earth, it frightened them. However, what really transpired here is more profound than you may have thought. They weren't just attempting to stifle your talents. Their goal was to harvest them. For the network leaders, your spiritual energy was being transformed into financial riches. They were using your heavenly connection to further their own sinister activities. Your energy was being methodically taken out and channeled to support their corrupt empire every time you felt spiritually spent after certain encounters. Every time you felt that unexplainable tiredness that couldn't be explained by physical conditions. From here, the discovery becomes even more startling. To enable this harvesting, however, you must first comprehend how they took your identify. They did more than simply take your vitality. Your complete identity was stolen. You've known your whole life that the adoption was a lie, created especially to conceal your actual spiritual heritage and inheritance rights. Your actual name, your actual ancestry, and your genuine spiritual background. It was all purposefully concealed to keep you from reclaiming what is rightly yours. They intended to control and take use of the strength in your lineage. Thus, they required you to be cut off from your origins. Your energy signature was used to produce many impersonations. Other individuals are stealing your energy legacy and weakening your strength by employing different forms of your spiritual essence, life force, and divine blueprint. They developed a whole system of fictitious personas to mislead the spiritual world about your true identity. They methodically depleted all of the resources associated with your real identity while fabricating legal paperwork to make you seem mentally incapable. The individuals who signed documents granting them legal power over your monetary and spiritual heritage were the same ones who seemed to be concerned about your welfare. Layers of fraudulent documents have obscured your genuine spiritual name, the one that truly embodies your power. However, bank records that demonstrate the systematic theft of your spiritual inheritance are now among the digital evidence that is coming to light. Unbeknownst to you, bank accounts were created under your true name. Ancestors who understood your genuine spiritual importance set up trust monies. The extent of what they have taken from you goes much beyond financial gain. They have taken away your link to your cosmic legacy, your ancestors' knowledge, and your spiritual heritage. The coincidences that led you here, chosen one, weren't by chance. Your finding of this message isn't either. Timeline manipulation forces pay attention when souls of this level come together. They are afraid of our combined might. Whether you belong with us is not the issue. To share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. How long will you let the Matrix to postpone the awakening that heavenly grace has already ensured? The inner order of Obsidian is open. There are paid barriers there. Indeed, people who support us provide us with weaponry to combat the systems that manipulate the Matrix. Members who pay get quantum resistance training, heavenly instruction, and a free weekly group call. However, we cannot overlook the fact that you can kick someone while they're down. For this reason, our Astral Atom newsletter is available to you without charge. No catch, no paywall. It's bi-directional. Any communication we send you may be replied to. We'll read it, we'll listen to you, and we'll get back to you with an answer. We need your help if you can. Take what's free if you can. In the description below, click the link right now. This is where your real timeline starts. The financial side of their business demonstrates an unfathomable degree of planned wickedness. It was more than simply a drain of your spiritual energies. It was being transformed into tangible riches that financed the activities of the whole network. The tyranny of other chosen souls was actually being financed by your heavenly wealth, while you were kept totally ignorant of their existence. Inheritance and trust assets intended to assist your spiritual work were routinely plundered. Investigators are now discovering that power of attorney fraud and forged documents were used to steal assets and property that really belonged to your spiritual heritage. While you were living under the false adoption identity they created to keep you apart from your true inheritance, decades of systematic theft, wire transfers, investment accounts, and real estate transactions were all carried out using your real identity, according to the digital financial trail they are following. Life insurance policies intended to provide resources and security for your spiritual mission were stolen via insurance fraud, including forged death certificates. In order for them to collect benefits intended for your heavenly labor, they essentially proclaimed you dead on paper while keeping you alive but spiritually repressed. The network tormenting you was being financed by your heavenly richness. Your own spiritual birthright, funding your spiritual captivity, is the greatest cosmic insult. However, every cent they have taken will be returned with interest compounded in ways they never thought imaginable thanks to the financial records that are now coming to light. There is more corruption than just a few bad actors. To keep you under control, whole institutions were corrupted. Religious groups were often paid to propagate false stories about your personality and mental health. To share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Instead, the exact locations that ought to have safeguarded your spiritual path were paid to undermine it. Systematic bribery was used to influence court systems in order to maintain false legal positions that left you helpless. To guarantee that your rights were violated and your genuine identity remained hidden, judges, attorneys, and court clerks were paid. Bank records proving these precise payments are now part of the digital proof. Medical establishments were tainted to bolster unfounded allegations of mental incompetence. Social workers, medics, and therapists all work together to make you seem unstable while methodically draining your spiritual vitality and resources. The purpose of infiltrating educational institutions was to stifle your spiritual talents and actual potential. Teachers, therapists, and administrators all work to make sure you never realized your true potential or challenge the myth about who you are and what you are capable of. Coordination of the media made sure your experiences were dismissed and your voice kept silent. Journalists, bloggers, and social media influencers are all being instructed and paid to silence anybody who discusses systemic abuse of chosen souls or spiritual targeting. They began a spiritual warfare campaign against your inner soul, which is why the institutional corruption network needed a great deal of finance and coordination. The spiritual assaults on you weren't arbitrary. They were precise military operations meant to keep you operating at the lowest frequency feasible. In order to bind your energy and obscure your spiritual vision, sophisticated esoteric techniques were used. You were constantly being attacked spiritually by practitioners who were quite skilled at what they did. Voodoo magic, energy attachments, and binding spells were all designed to keep you in a low frequency and spiritually confused condition. The exact spiritual practices that ought to have been used for empowerment and healing were perverted into tools meant to sap your vitality and stifle your divine connection. To actually drain your life, force energy. Death spells and synchronized spiritual assaults were used. Every time you experienced unexplained fatigue or sudden spiritual heaviness, it was the consequence of systematic spiritual warfare aimed at gradually destroying your connection to your source of energy. Confusion magic was created just to keep you from realizing how powerful you are. Spells intended to interfere with your intuition, impair your judgment, and cause you to question your spiritual experiences. Since a fully awakened chosen one is their greatest fear, they wanted you to remain perplexed and unsure. The purpose of the systematic spiritual assault was to completely undermine your heavenly connection. They wanted you to think you were spiritually flawed, insane, or deluded. However, the irony is lovely. Investigators now have comprehensive proof of precisely what they did to you, because to their own frantic online searches for solutions to undo the spiritual effects of their crimes. Their own online confessions detail their spiritual transgressions, which brings us to the familial treachery that enabled it all. The distortion of your own lineage was the most destructive part of their program. Your spiritual and financial exploitation was being deliberately carried out by family members who were supposed to be protecting you. It wasn't merely a fake adoption. It was a plot by your family to take your spiritual power and inheritance. Regular payments were made to blood relations to keep up false information about your adoption and identity. While you grappled with doubts about your true origins and purpose, family members who were aware of your true spiritual heritage were paid to be quiet. Digital proof showed that trusted people in your life were energy vampires and hired handlers. In reality, the people you believed to be important to you were being paid to drain your energy and update the network coordinators of your spiritual growth. Children were used as spiritual bonds and leverage. The adversary saw that your affection for children might be used as a weapon against you, forming energetic ties that gave them access to your spiritual energy by manipulating your emotions. Bribery and intimidation were used to keep the lie going throughout extended family networks. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins all either voluntarily participate for financial benefit or choose to keep quiet out of fear of being singled out and harassed themselves. Because they required individuals close to you to uphold the false narrative and keep you from learning who you really were, the family betrayal was crucial to their operation. However, investigators now have comprehensive proof of every payment, every lie, and every orchestrated deceit thanks to the monitoring apparatus they utilized to keep an eye on this treachery. You had no idea how vast the surveillance network was that followed you everywhere. Your physical whereabouts, spiritual growth, relationships, and financial activity were all monitored by sophisticated technology systems. Everything was being tracked and examined in order to keep your life under control. In order to thwart spiritual development and enlightenment, energetic monitoring systems were implemented. They were keeping an eye on your vibration, frequency, and energy source link. They would use countermeasures to return your frequency to controllable levels if you started to spiritually awaken. The purpose of social isolation strategies was to keep you from connecting with other awakened people who might assist you in realizing your full potential. Interference would inexplicably show up to ruin whatever connection you had with a spiritually talented person and keep you apart. Relocation monitoring made sure that they kept an eye on you and kept you under control wherever you went. Your movements were monitored. Handlers penetrated your new environs. Your efforts to break free from their spell were methodically thwarted. They were able to forewarn you anytime you started to uncover the truth about your circumstances, your online activity, your spiritual reading, and your connection to awakening material thanks to digital monitoring of your spiritual searches and awakening path. Everything was being watched to anticipate and stop your complete awakening. However, because every digital trace they left while keeping tabs on you is being used as evidence in their trial, their surveillance system has now turned against them. Their network is now being destroyed by a karmic avalanche that is more powerful than they could have ever envisioned. They have lost all spiritual protection because their misdeeds have become so bad that the cosmos can no longer stand them. As the toxic energy they have been emitting for decades comes back to them with compound interest, the karmic payback is speeding up rapidly. All of their curses, binding spells, and spiritual attacks on selected souls are now coming back to them in greater measure thanks to cosmic justice. The same spiritual assaults that they utilized against you are happening to other members of your network. Now, powers beyond their knowledge or control are directing the confusion spells, energy drains, and spiritual heaviness at them. With terrible accuracy, their own occult activities have turned against them. As controllers lose energy grip over their targets, mental breakdowns are happening all throughout their network. They no longer have the energy supply they've relied on for their own stability, and the spiritual ties they utilize to control and deplete selected souls have been broken. The digital evidence trail that is now being utilized against them was produced by their frantic efforts to undo spiritual effects by searching the internet for occult remedies. Every desperate effort to find safety from karmic wrath and every frenzied seek for spiritual purification turned into proof of their wrongdoing. The pace of their collapses is increasing beyond their control and escape, and the universe is utilizing their own desperation against them. The simultaneous downfall of many cover-up schemes worldwide has been coordinated by divine timing. The coordinated disclosures that occur in accordance with cosmic time and assist the freedom of all selected souls are what they first believe to be isolated occurrences of exposure. As their spiritual protection kicks in and their fear of reprisals fades, protected witnesses are coming forward with decades of hidden evidence. People who had remained quiet for years are now speaking up, which will totally undermine the network's reputation. The worldwide reach of their organization is being revealed by international law enforcement collaboration. A coordinated global network targeting spiritually gifted people across continents has been exposed by what began as separate inquiries in several nations. Due to unpaid payments that turned friends into adversaries, religious organizations who were compensated to take part in your spiritual repression are now opposing the network. To avoid being prosecuted themselves, the same institutions they tainted are now offering evidence against them. Digital financial trails that investigators may now trace across international borders are exposing corporate conspirators who enabled the financial portions of their operation. Banks, insurance businesses, and investment corporations are all linked by transactions that are no longer secret. As more selected souls realize their own potential and start expressing their truth, the Great Expose is speeding up and causing an unstoppable tsunami of disclosure. Divine justice is accelerating faster than the adversary could have ever dreamed, and your spiritual protection is acting right now. Your connection to source energy is being re-established to such an extent that it will leave you speechless, and the spiritual barriers that have been erected around you are impenetrable. You will be surprised at how your genuine spiritual authority is starting to become apparent. People are starting to recognize your true self. Not the phony persona they conjured, but your own spiritual self with all the strength and knowledge that comes with it. As stolen assets are being recovered via legal means that the adversary cannot impede or influence, financial restoration is already getting underway. Courts are forced to impose full repayment with interest and penalties because the digital proof of their theft is so strong. The proof of your persecution is growing to the point where it is impossible to deny or conceal it from the public. Even their erstwhile friends will have to admit your innocence and their own guilt when the truth about what they did to you becomes so clear. You are already starting to rise to your appointed position as a healer and mentor to other designated souls. Your genuine spiritual authority is becoming apparent to those who can see it, and more chosen ones are being attracted to your energy. In addition to worldly wealth, the restoration of your spiritual heritage include the recovery of cosmic ties, spiritual talents, and ancestral knowledge that they made valiant attempts to cut off, but were never able to do so. The world's chosen spirits are waking as a result of your personal triumph. Each step of your release has a cascading effect that aids other targeted folks in seeing their own predicament and starting their own path to freedom. Thousands of other spiritually talented people who are ensnared in similar control and exploitation systems are being set free by the network's dismantling. Your bravery in taking back your authority inspires others to follow suit. As light workers everywhere awaken to their full potential and come together to form an unstoppable force for good change, the restoration of divine order is speeding up. Mass spiritual awakening, the enemy's greatest dread, is coming to pass. As each harvested soul obtains their spiritual heritage and assumes their predetermined function as a healer and lighthouse for mankind, cosmic justice is coming full circle. The systematic persecution of selected souls is coming to an end, as the chosen ones come together to heal the earth and lead mankind into a higher state of awareness. A new age has started.